morning. This is Pam Lippett with the Hill Street Group, and I am back online interviewing small business owners. It started as something to do in the time of Corona, but I'm really enjoying this. So I'm hoping that I continue way past when the world comes back for all of us to reconnect or connect with new people. So this morning, I have one of my oldest friends who lives in Florida, Robert Manela. It'll be really hard for me not to call him Bobby during this conversation.
I thought so.
So, and I'll tell you why. I'll show you why later. But welcome. How do you want to be called, Robert or Bob?
As I'll say, as long as the check clears, you can call me anything you want.
All right. Well, it may go back between Bob and Bobby then.
Bob is really probably what most people call me.
Okay, good. Good to know, because I think I called you that when we were about 12. So it works for me. So in all, to the folks watching, in all transparency, we've known each other since 7th grade, I think. Probably before that in the neighborhood, but...
Because we went to different elementary schools, but the
Right.
same junior high school.
Right, but we only lived around the block from each other. So,
Right.
it was that pool thing. The Beacon Square pool for anyone from Southeast Michigan suburbs who would know that. So welcome, Bob. This morning we're going to be talking about your kind of road through the CPA world and helping people, which I think is the underlying thing. So welcome. Feel free to introduce yourself, and then we'll chat for a little bit.
I'm Robert Manela. I am a CPA in both Florida and where I'm originally from, Michigan, where the Hill Street Group is out of. But I've done work for people all around the world, and I think I prepared income tax returns in about 40 of our different states.
Wow.
Different clients call you, different people have needs. I mostly work with small businesses and business owners. If you look at my websites, which are pretty simple, I don't tell you the 50 things. I don't have a canned website that tell you, what I can do. I only tell you what I do. I handle 3 T's. I call it tax planning, tax preparation, and IRS tax controversy. As opposed to telling you I can do bookkeeping and sell you software, I just tell you what I can do. I've been doing this for over 30 years. During that time, I had my own practice. I had, at one time, 8 partners and 150 employees. But 20 years ago, I wanted to get a little bit simpler, a little bit smaller. I enjoyed working with people, not managing people. And so I had basically 2 CPAs and a secretary and a bookkeeper working for me for almost 20 years. You see, I like change a lot.
Yes.
And 2.5 years ago, I sold my practice. I worked for the buyer for a couple of years, and on January 1st, my employment contract ended, and I was back on the street needing to do work. On January 1st, I had 0 business, and I'm happy to say now it's November 5th, and I have a lot more than 0 business. And probably the message that I would have for people is what really helped accelerate my practice this year was COVID. Some people look at problems. You have to look at, like everybody says, you have to look at opportunities. And I was able to find groups of people that didn't mind not meeting in my office. They relished meeting me online.
So that's really interesting. Let's kind of put a pin there and talk about. You talked about you like change. So
Probably I don't like change.
Oh, you don't like change,
but you have to adapt.
Right. So let's think about that. What was that morning you woke up and you said, I'm selling the practice? I get that at the end of the contract of the 2 years you left, that I get. But what was your aha moment? Because that's what people want to hear. Like,
You know,
how do you take that leap?
it's not easy, but I was, I was trying to be smart about things. And, the last major election cycle, not 2020, 2016, they were talking a lot about tax simplification.
Mm-hmm.
And if tax simplification happened, it would affect me, it would have affected me greatly in the pocketbook. So I thought I was taking the right opportunity and selling my practice when it still had value. If there was tax simplification, meaning take your income multiplied by 10%, my business would have been worth nothing. So
Uh-huh.
so I was playing cards. I was cashing in when I could.
So, but was there like a literally well, so you're a CPA, so you probably thought it all out. You're not like, us the creative people like me who wake up one morning and go enough. Like, but was there an enough moment? Was
There
there
was
like one morning?
there was definitely an enough moment. The enough moment is when you do some work for somebody and you really help them out, and sometimes you don't get even a thank you. Sometimes, oh, I have to pay your bill. You save somebody thousands of dollars for something they weren't thinking about, and sometimes you don't get appreciated. Uh,
Right.
it's in working at home, you don't get appreciated very much. I like the hustle and bustle of an office.
Uh-huh.
I have an office right now that I signed on the first of the year. Thank God, just a 1 year lease. And I go there to get my mail. Uh, people
So
don't
are,
people don't want to see me in person.
you're not going to re-sign the lease?
I'm gonna resign the lease. I practice in the Boca Deerfield area for 30 years. So
Mm-hmm.
for another year and a half, I can't have an office in Boca Raton, Deerfield Beach, Florida. So I'm in Boynton Beach, Florida, 20 minutes up the road. So as soon as my non-compete ends, I'm gonna move back to Boca Deerfield because it's closer to the house and it's closer to, let's just say, 70% of my clients or former
And
clients.
so have you thought of doing like a shared office? One of not necessarily rework, but there are other offices where you could have an actual office space, but not pay the price of your official office.
Yeah, you know what? Um, I can go and just have a phone number and a address and get my mail or a full office like I have. I made them an offer and said, okay, I want to keep the office. I love the office. Charge me somewhere in the middle. And I've yet to hear from them, but in
Yeah.
this day and age, they have to be competitive too because there's
You
people moving out.
You would think so, but I find that the various clients I've worked at, and I owned for people who don't know, I owned a mailing business. I still kind of do for 35 years. And I'm always shocked when there's 7 empty stores within, striking distance that someone won't, do something, to help a client as opposed to letting them pack up and move down, like 3 doors down
Well,
or across the street.
what businesses have to be careful of, and I am not an attorney and I don't practice one on television, but if you make offers to one person, then the next person wants the same offer. You have to be careful. You can't discriminate towards one person or another.
Well, you can. I mean, I had a mailing client that literally had to go out of business because one of the senior owners was ill. The daughters were trying to decide if they were going to do this or sell it. And it was a really sellable business, really sellable. But the management company said 5-year lease or bust. And they were in the position of having to choose bust. Now, that spot stood empty probably for 3 years. It was a big spot. So
Okay.
you wonder like where the mentality is that you don't say, okay, fine, we'll give you a year because we know you're trying to move to the next level. and the next thing. It's a weird combination. But to talk about how you're doing. You said that that for CPAs, and I understand this, during this past year, especially for small business and PPE, is that a lot? Are those a lot of the, not PPE, the PPP loans? Is that a lot of the calls you're fielding right now?
We're not getting those calls anymore, but I did a lot of applications for people and helped people, and it was a great segue into meeting people. And because of one particular business had a lot of Zoom meetings, and I knew them, they kept on inviting me, and every time they invited me, I got a new client from it.
That's great. Well, hopefully this will work for both of us then. So I'm going to do a quick little aside, and then I want to talk about your other business, which is IRS
penalty
busters. But I'm hoping the camera will pick this up. Here is the Bobby Manela that I remember. Do you have any clue where this is?
It looks like it's in Israel.
It is in Israel. My first trip, was it your first trip?
In 76.
78. 78, 79.
And I was in, again, 76 and 79.
This is 79, so you were there once before me. This is when we were in college. And are you at least saying go blue this week?
Well, of course, I didn't post it yet, but, I'm a Spartan.
I know.
In Michigan, I definitely say go blue right now.
Okay, we won't worry about that cough, right? That's Florida allergies?
The cough is allergy and asthma. I could go in the house, in the car.
Yeah.
Doesn't change anything.
I understand. Yesterday I had the door open because actually in Michigan, it was 70 degrees yesterday on November 4th, which is another whole story in itself, that we're in the upper 60s and 70s today. I think that somewhere we're being shined upon that for another week we don't have to be inside before the winter starts. So tell me a little bit about, I'm going to do a 180, and tell me about the IRS part of your work, because that seems really interesting and really important.
Well, over the years, I've always helped a lot of people with IRS problems. I've always prepared returns for people that hadn't filed for multiple years. I've done a lot of IRS collection work, and meaning helping people pay the IRS that owe money. If you listen to television commercials and radio commercials, it's all about.
Take coffee. That's okay.
I didn't want to cough on the mic. It's all about helping people with IRS problems, and the more people advertise is better for me. So I set up IRS penalty busters just as more of a kitschy or gimmicky way of getting clients. Some people come to you because you're a CPA. Some people come to you because you sound like an IRS problem solver. And that's what I do. People are afraid of the IRS. Just this week, the IRS has made it easier for people to settle problems, but it's better still to call a professional that knows how to handle things. Because Pam, if I ask you something, I'm the IRS and I ask you, you got to give me the answer. If they ask me about you, I'd say, I'm not sure, I'll get back to you. Because you don't want to lie. When you call the IRS, they document every phone call, so that you call the next day. One day you say you made nothing. The next day you say you made 100,000. They want to know what's going on. And I love helping people. Sometimes people call me and all I'm doing is telling them what to do, because they don't need to spend the money to hire me to do it. I don't need to make the quick buck. I hate to say this, but if you call some of those 800 numbers, they ask you for a lot of money up front, and they have a reputation of not solving people's problems. If you call me, I'm going to help solve your problem. but I'm going to work with you. I'm not just going to try to say, pay this. I'm going to tell you, hey, you need to make estimated payments so you don't get into this problem again. You need to maybe fire a couple of people because you're just paying people and incurring payroll tax and not getting anywhere.
So I think I heard I don't remember, we've been on so many websites and so many Zooms, but I heard someone talking on a Zoom I was on, the speaker, about looking at 2020 as kind of the in-between. And she compared it to when you're a kid in the summer and you go to camp. So you had the year of school behind you and you have the year of school ahead of you. But the summer where you have freedom is the in-between. And so she talked about looking at 2020 as the in-between, and that you can kind of reset yourself because it's the in-between of what you want your future to be. So it seems to me like that, not only should we be resetting what we're doing for a living, but we should be resetting how we're looking at our finances. That's another story, but looking at what we're doing and look to a professional such as yourself to figure out how to move forward, to figure out, okay, this is what I did in the past with my taxes. Maybe I never felt comfortable when I sent in that envelope myself. I know I have I've had a home business for years and a home office. So for me, it was always really important to have a CPA because I wanted a CPA to do first of all, I'm not a numbers person, so I kind of am, but a CPA to review, to sign my taxes when they go into the IRS. Now, the reality is that has been the least amount of importance that I've learned over the years. It's really those questions that came before and after the taxes went in that really help you.
I was listening. I kind of liked that 2020 is a reset year, but people have reset years all the time. They buy a business, they sell a business. Sometimes they go bankrupt, and sometimes they make a settlement with the IRS. Those are resets. Getting married is a reset. Getting divorced is a reset. And being that I work with individuals and businesses, I get a lot of resets in life. I'm going to quote a high school friend of ours whose parents were from Poland, like my dad. It's a very famous Polish proverb. It's not my circus, not my monkeys.
Right.
You don't want to get involved in other people's businesses. But as a CPA, I can't say for every CPA, I get involved in people's lives. If you don't get involved in people's lives, you're yes, no, yes, no. And I'm not like that. I'm a little bit more animated. You have to get involved in those reset years. What you sometimes do, I have a client going through a divorce right now, and we're going to double reset him. He's going to file bankruptcy before his trial is over.
Wow. Okay. I get that. So I'm remiss because I should tell people if they're watching, that's really interesting. I'm thinking about that as I'm talking, and then I'm going to respond. But if someone's watching now or afterwards, please feel free to comment where you're from. Let us know if you have any questions. And Bob and I will follow up with you, even if you're watching this in replay, and get back to you to answer your questions. So, I just want everyone to hang on with that. I haven't really looked at the comment section, but I will. Nothing yet, but feel free to send us some questions now or later. I think you're right. I think that that's just so important because I'm coming to someone for advice, right? Should I, set my business up like this or like this? Should I do this or this? So it's a whole list. It's got to be holistic. otherwise I can go online and hit a checkbox and see what comes up, and hopefully the algorithm will work. I am a big computer user, but I think the brain is still the biggest algorithm. And I think talking to someone, sometimes you get new information, but sometimes it actually also verifies that you're thinking in the right direction and allows you that step to move forward.
What I like to tell people is nobody wants to be told no, you can't do that. And we have to tell them sometimes you need to do it a little bit differently. If it's the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I use the phrase, if you have to ask, it's probably not tax deductible. It's just the way. It's just the way of the world. If it sounds too good, somebody's. I have rules. I have the Manela third 1/3 rule. If somebody told you they went to Las Vegas and lost $1,000, they lost $3,000.
Right.
If they said they won 3,000, they only won 1,000. With the IRS, everybody tells you and brags to you what they got away with or what they think they got away with, and still less than 1% of people get audited. But if you do get audited, it's not fun. And
right.
The first thing clients want to say is, well, why didn't you tell me? Or why did you let me do this? Or why did you tell me to do this? People want to, unfortunately, they don't want to look in the mirror. They want to blame somebody else. And,
right.
And if I'm on the hot seat, I don't like to be blamed.
No, I don't either. It's interesting. I over the course of my jobs, whatever, one of the things that I didn't like about working for, I liked all the companies I worked for and all the bosses I worked for. So I want to use that as a caveat. But one of the things that just made my skin crawl was when someone told you what you did wrong before they asked you what they did.
I understand that.
Because and it's kind of the same with taxes. They're saying to you, what did you do to me? Not, how did we get to this point? Like, explain how I got to this point to me. Explain this to me.
I have a client, and I've had right now that has a President Trump type tax situation with carry forward losses for many, many years. And I had a client audited 2 years ago with the same situation. And I'm a little guy, little small, small practice in comparison, but you do get those people. I have had those, and you have to caution people. In general, you need to keep records for 3 years. If it's fraud, it could be a whole lot longer. If you buy a house or buy property or have these types of losses, you got to keep those records for nearly forever. And when these couple clients of mine got audited, we had all those records.
Wow.
It's not as easy, people don't necessarily want to gravitate to the computer. and and about 8 years ago, I took basically 500 storage boxes and got rid of them all. And it wasn't inexpensive, but most of our records, 8 years ago went online.
Uh-huh.
If you look in my house, you see a lot of paper because until I'm done working with the paper, and until I've scanned it, I gotta keep it and get rid of it somehow.
Sure.
But it's still a lot.
So in other words, I can throw out my business stuff from like 35 years ago and free up space in a closet, huh?
Yes.
Good to know. I'm waiting for one of those I'd like to wait for those free shred days and then take a couple boxes.
I actually don't have a file cabinet at my office, and I don't have a file cabinet at my home office. I do have lots of paper, though.
I have like one of those like square little buckets with the top on it, like a footrest kind of thing that you can buy that's got space inside. That's where my folders are. And I actually, at this point, don't keep file folders as much as I keep like the old Duotang, a plastic folder for a client so I can pick it up and go and things don't fall out. But I would say 99% of my stuff is online. Oh, probably 99.9%. But sometimes so I find for me, it's more that the other person wants to see something. It's not that I want something.
When people send me records, or sometimes it can't all be scanned to me. I'm looking at a couple of boxes, and I got to keep those until we've done with the work. For small business owners, they say in the perfect world, you scan all the documents as they come in.
Yeah.
But when you're 61 years old, it is good to work with the original paper documents.
Okay, first of all, you just said your age, and I said we went to school together. So I'm totally over this conversation.
Yeah, but you
I was going to ask how you got to be so much older than me.
You skipped a few grades.
I know, it's because I showed the picture. I really think there's a picture of you, me, and Alan Havis together in Israel, and I couldn't find it, but I was looking for it. I'll find it one day and post it. So let's talk. We have about 10, 15 minutes left. I know you thought that this would we wouldn't have enough to talk about, but it's so not true. Let's talk about people who in this time are saying to themselves, you know what, I've been laid off, or I don't want to do what I've been doing, or I've had that aha moment and I want to start a business. Give us some, from a CPA's perspective, I guess, what steps a new business should be taking. We just blinked up.
Well, first of all, most people, if they want to start something new, they don't need to incorporate immediately. They can just try it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But once you find what you're doing, in general, you're better off incorporating in some way, shape, or form for liability protection.
Okay.
If Pam wasn't incorporated and somebody took a piece of advice from me, they could sue her for giving bad advice or allowing somebody. I think people need to do what they know, not do a 360-degree turnaround. I've seen businesses, somebody that works for a major company buy an auto repair business, and most of the time they fail miserably. They're used to managing, white collar people. Then all of a sudden they're managing blue collar people, and it's too big of a change.
Uh-huh.
If those business opportunities online advertise sound too good to be true, they usually are. If you're between things, maybe take a few classes and see what you always wanted to do.
That's a good idea.
Still trying to I try to mute myself if I'm going to cough. I just
don't worry about it.
Allergy and asthma. I just don't want to.
I so understand.
So just about any. It's so funny talking about doing something different. I've been writing a book for a few years, and I'm the furthest thing from a novelist that you will find. And I'm not going to try to make a career of it. If I can find a good co-editor and co-publisher or somebody to write it with me, I might make something of it.
Is it a novel?
It's a semi-autobiographical comedic novel.
All right. Well, this is a whole new topic I never thought we'd talk about. So that's really interesting. But you're not giving up your day job.
Not giving up my day job. I tell people if they have a job and they want to start something new, stay employed for a little bit. Perhaps bring an unemployed spouse or partner into it, so that you don't cut off your health insurance and you don't cut off something else. It's
Right.
It's interesting. Look, I started a new business again. I mean, it was a lot of people don't have the guts to do that. At my advanced, at my gifted age.
It's so much older than I am age, is what you meant to say.
I used to go somewhere with my sister who's 3 years older, and I would introduce her as my younger sister. She says, I am not. I said, be quiet. You're my younger sister. So
now she probably loves it.
Pam skipped 3 grades at least in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I might be 61, but mentally I'm still a 15-year-old. All you have to do is go in the other room and ask my wife, and she will tell you.
Okay.
But in whatever you do, like I said, you gotta do something similar to what you don't have to, but it's easier not to learn everything again. Take what you've learned and work with it.
So it's interesting. I actually created the Hill Street Group in 2016, and then I had another job, and I had a full-time job. But it gave me the opportunity to play, and this year I really have taken this time during COVID to do some really take advantage of opportunities and to think a lot about how things kind of how the path of my career has gone along. I mean, there are days when I wake up and say, I wish I had initials after my name, because I think people who do probably have a better chance of getting going job to job if you have those specific skills, which I don't have initials, but I have a wealth of knowledge in communicating and helping other people. So it took me a long time and to figure out that what the thread is between my career, between my jobs and careers. And it really has been how either the organization or the company has communicated with people, and where that worked and where that didn't, and what was put upon me that I didn't like versus what I did that I really liked. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And I see that, you deciding, all right, so I'm retired for a bit, but now it's time to do something is really makes sense. And I think there are a lot of us who are really in that position right now. And I think as we go back into the winter and probably are going to be in our houses a lot more, that's a really good time to just kind of sit and figure it out. And once we figure it out, move forward.
You talked about no initials. I will now shock the hell out of anybody listening. I don't have a degree in accounting. I have a degree in marketing. And I was going to go back and get an MBA, and instead I just took accounting classes. And, again, I'll tell people I passed the CPA exam for the first time because I'm lazy. I didn't want to study for 14 years.
Right.
At that time it was easy to shut the phone off. I just said, I'm going to study for 6 months or a year and take the exam. And, I may be, I can never tell you this statistically, but there are not many non-CPA majors that are CPAs in this country.
Or non-accounting majors. Yep. It's interesting. But that's Bob, that's why when we talked before we went live, you talked about your interest in people and wanting to help people be successful more than the numbers. The numbers are kind of your tool, but the way you work with people is your skill.
I met with somebody, this goes back about 20 years ago, and they wanted to open up an ice cream store. And they wanted the mall they were looking at had no restaurants, had no movie theater nearby, had nothing. And they weren't immigrants that were going to put 80 hours a week into this store. And I said, how much is it going to cost you to open up? And they said about $300,000. So I said to them, give me $150,000. And they said, why? And I said, now I saved you $150,000
Yeah.
to open up. And
Right.
they didn't open up this, that particular business is very difficult, and you have to work a tremendous amount of hours.
Yeah.
In Florida, we just passed it's our minimum wage is going to be up to $15 an hour
Saw
for
that.
a number of years, and it's going to be tough for retail businesses.
It's going to be really tough for small businesses, but it shouldn't be tough for big businesses. It's probably a 1% of the big CEO paycheck or bonus at the end of the year.
When we moved to Florida, there were bagel places that would charge like 89 cents for eggs, a bagel, potatoes. And I wouldn't go into one of those places because I knew they were paying everybody off the books. They probably had no insurance for anybody, and
Right.
I just couldn't do it. You get what you pay for, and most of those places are out of business.
Right. I mean, it's one thing to have a sale and a loss leader. It's like here at dollar stores, limit the number of newspapers you can buy on a Sunday morning. Why do they do that? Because otherwise one guy came in and then resold those newspapers at his store for 3 times as much money.
Well, anybody could place a limit as to, it's their business.
Right.
And if they're selling them for $1, that's what they're doing.
Well, I think like they were selling that for a service, not necessarily for someone else. The warehouse model of a Costco, when you see there's like a big cart and someone's taking like huge bags of rice, that's its intended purpose. It's a warehouse where you can take that to your restaurant and sell it. And if you can't find a better source, that's its purpose, right? A dollar store's purpose is not selling newspapers for you to resell. And they obviously hit enough. And then, so there are people who come in to shop were never getting papers.
In these places that would sell these dollar breakfasts, I'd avoid them because I just didn't want to deal with the people that were just there strictly looking for the bargain. In my profession, if somebody wants me to do work, it's better to stick to whatever your pricing model is, because if you deviate, those are the most difficult people to deal with. Yeah. I don't go to a client. I learned from both my father and father-in-law. I don't go to a business or to a client and say, give me 20% off. I use the line, how much do I owe you? Because when they deal with me, I don't want somebody saying, give me 20% off. I want somebody to pay me what I deserve.
Yeah. So my mailing business did really well. It bought me the house I live in. It took me around the world. It did whatever I wanted to do. When the recession hit in 2008, 2009, for mailers, it was a free for all. The postage price didn't change, and every client expected you to not make money. And there became kind of a free fall in the industry where prices were slashed about 60, 70%, and customers who I was really lucky in terms of my clients didn't leave me for other mailers. But unfortunately, a lot of them went out of business. But I had one client who just called me and said, oh, I can't pay your bill. I said, your business, you've got multiple things going on and they're doing really well. And he said, yeah, but this particular stream isn't doing well. And I said to him, so here's the thing. When you called me 2 weeks ago to do the mail, we had an agreement based on, working together 10 years that I would do the work and you would pay the bill. You didn't say to me 2 weeks ago, I'll pay the bill if. So I think that there's just, there's just credibility in how we work, and it speaks to character, and it speaks to who we want to be after this in-between year.
I do a lot of work. Sometimes I'll do 5 years or 10 years of somebody's work. So they're not getting a bill for $500 a year. All of a sudden they're getting a bill for $5,000. And, it's all at once and it seems like a lot of money. So we had a client that asked me one time, he said, do you really get off on billing people? I said, no, I get off on collecting from people.
Right.
Whatever
seriously?
Was, like a restaurant owner. When I leave a restaurant, I pay the bill. When I leave the supermarket, I pay the bill. And,
and if you have a small bag, you pay less than if you have 10 bags.
Over 30 years, I've got the long list of people, the long list of lines, and they say, oh, I never got your bill. And I say, well, you told me that in 1992 and in 1997. Oh, I thought my wife paid the bill. Well, you told me that in 2000 and 2007. And I want to say to them, you got to get me some new excuses.
Right.
And nobody ever receives the email with the bill. They only receive the email with the work that they have. And, I could joke about it, but most of my clients are honest, hardworking people, and they want assistance.
I think it's we've been on this call 45 minutes. You thought that would be shockingly a long time, and I told you it wouldn't. So I want to just remind people, well, one of the things that I thought was really good, you talked about tax season is all year long and tax planning should be all year long. And I thought that was great words. So I'm just going to stick that up for a second. I'm going to remind people that these are your websites. And then I'll ask you, are you interested in new connections on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
So here's your, my phone never rings and it's buzzing this whole time. I'm going to remind people to look for you on LinkedIn. I'm becoming pretty much LinkedIn all the time, all the answers. So I will ask you when you connect to put a message in that connection and tell Bob why you're connecting and that you heard him here on this show. That would be great. This little thing. And if you're watching later, I don't know how many people are watching now. I'm not looking at that. But if you're watching later, send us a message and we'll be happy to respond. So that's what I have for today. Do you have any parting words for us? Parting words of tax wisdom?
Well, I will just tell you about me. I'm definitely more of a mathlete than an athlete. That I will tell you. You have to have fun. Anybody that deals with me, they beg for a joke or they beg me not to tell a joke. You want me to tell you one presidential joke?
Sure. Anything to raise my spirits today.
Okay, they asked Joe Biden, they said, Joe, boxers or briefs? And Joe said, depends.
That's not even a political joke. I think that's a dad joke.
That's just funny, right? If you look, you'll say, "This is the mug that my
backwards king of dad jokes." See, and my newest little sign says, "I make things." Whoops, I make pretty things because I'm the frustrated artist. So I'm all about crafts when the computer closes off. So. This has been delightful catching up. We're going to have
when are we doing it again?
Let's pick another topic and we can certainly do it again next month. So we're going to say goodbye to everyone here and end the broadcast. And just, shout out if you went to Southfield Lathrop or Bernie Junior High. Put in a comment. Let us know that it's good to see us online. So have a good day, everyone. And I have two small business casts the week of the 16th, whatever that week is. And so you'll be getting information from me soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Great. See y'all later.